Hey team, it's Dr. Gareth from Fusion Chiropractic. And have you ever noticed how the more you sit, the more your body tends to get aches and pains, especially in your neck, your back, maybe even your shoulders and your hips? Well, while I often recommend lots of different things like exercise and chiropractic and nutritious eating, one of the things that does make a big difference is if you set your chair up properly so that, especially if you're sitting there for long periods of time, it doesn't cause your spine to collapse. So sit tight and watch the next 4 or 5 minutes as I go through some ways that you can set your chair up to help you. So we're going to use just a regular chair here as our mechanism for showing how to set the chair up. Now what you'll find is that most chairs are actually angled a little bit up. So and why this is, it's supposed to be so to make the chair more comfortable, but it actually makes it worse. And the reason for that is when I sit down in the chair, what happens is my pelvis actually rotates down and it causes my spine to collapse. Now the test that we're going to use is essentially just a nice relaxing breath, and we should see how our body slumps. And in this regular chair, if I use it right now, what naturally happens is you can see how my pelvis rotates underneath me and my spine collapses. Now, to correct this, we've got a number of different tools. The first one is a wedge. And while this isn't absolutely necessary, you can get a towel and you can actually fold it so that it creates like an artificial wedge. But one of the things it does is it starts bringing that angle so that it actually brings you flat or even a little bit up. And if we use that same test again, you can see that I'm still slumping. I can feel it. So what we do is we start increasing the height. Now, the first thing that I'm going to use is I'm going to cheat a little bit because I know this is way too low for me. I'm going to use these nice big flat, I don't know what you call them, but they're nice big flat benches. And I'm going to use my wedge again, and we're going to retest. Now immediately as I sit down, I can already feel this is starting to get better. But I'm still slumping a little bit. Now what you can do at this point, and again, you don't need fancy things, but you can just use a towel. And so I fold this towel up so it's about 4 layers deep, and we try it again. We're getting a lot better here. We're going to increase it by 1 more layer. Now this can be the difference between 1 layer of the towel or 2. So in fact what we'll do is we'll try going with a double layer. Actually maybe even all 4. Because I want you to see what it's like if I go too high. So I can already feel that I'm starting to slump again. So I've actually gone a little bit too high. Because I have done this before, I know that if I go to more of 1 layer, that's probably going to be better for me. So I don't know how obvious this is on the camera, but I can feel there's like a sweet spot. Like I don't really have to work really hard to sit here. And immediately there's a lot more ease in my back, in my shoulders, and I feel like I can sit here for a long time. So that's the idea, that's what you want to play with. I wouldn't worry too much about worrying about the back. I mean, ideally you should just be able to sit here and work at your desk, which ideally your desk should be, if you work at a desk, should be at about at this level so that you're not having to lift your shoulders up too high and you're not too low either, and your computer screen should be at the height of your eyes. And again, this doesn't take away the value of doing things like exercise. It doesn't take the value away from the chiropractic care, because you can't just do this and expect to have a healthy spine and nervous system. But it is important that you're doing this properly, and it's also important that you're going to have variety, because doing too much of one thing is never going to be a good idea. If you do 8 hours of sitting down, this is going to be much better sitting like this but that's still, we were not designed to sit for 8 hours at a time. So taking regular breaks is also important.